Woo! This mic is live, I think. Hi, it's Saturday morning. This is the Art of Rock, and I want to welcome you and thank you for coming. As I distort my microphone. First and foremost, I want to give thanks to the Tonga people, who are the rightful owners of the land of Los Angeles, and I want to thank them for the resilience and hanging in there. Art of Rock is every Saturday morning at this time. Boom! Join us. Twitch seems to be the place to watch it because that's where the cool kids hang out, so I'm told. When they're not hanging out here. This content is brought to you by ANGELSPIT'S Patreon. If you've got a few bucks, throw it my way. A few bucks a month keeps the mayhem, keeps the circus going. ANGELSPIT has a new album single out called Art Imitates War. It's there. Go get it. It is brutal. It is very, very brutal. I promise you it will be the most brutal thing you've heard in quite a long time. The Planetoid is the new single from Ice Planet 9000 and ANGELSPIT, and it's streaming now. There is a link to the video. Go watch it. It's really good fun. Benoit has done a track with ANGELSPIT. It's currently on streaming services. It's called The Red Queen, and he's got another one coming out as well very soon as well, and it's awesome. Speaking of Spotify, because everybody hates it, but you shouldn't, I would like to introduce you to Industrial Incisions. It's a playlist, and it's bloody awesome, and it's got a lot of old bands that are awesome and new bands you need to know about. There it is. Click on it, like it, follow it, and it'll give you all the yummy stuff. Speaking about yummy stuff, non-stop yummy stuff from The Bleeding Edge is MTV TV. That's them on Twitch, and if you've got a video, send it to them. They're now playing my new Ice Planet 9000 video. Woo! Because they're bloody amazing and we need to get behind them and support them. Your mics are open. What's going on?
Stuff.
Stuff is good.
Some things.
Somebody had a really fantastic question, and I want to jump into that question about AIs.
I believe you actually had the question or the observation.
Okay, well, all right, so hold on, I'm just fixing my screen because I broke the internet. Yay for breakage of internet. Man, it's very quiet here today.
Depending on where I look, we're either all the way on the left or somewhat in the center.
I know. Carl did something brilliant.
This is the low stakes week.
It's the low stakes week. We're phoning it in. So AIs are really interesting. So, an interesting observation. The new, the artwork for the new release, Art Imitates War, is part AI, part everything. It's like 2 or 3 AI generators in there. There's a photo of a mushroom. There's a photo of me. There's a photo of some material. And I just kind of like smashed everything together and came up with that stuff and painted some lines on my face and had a really fun time doing it. It's very interesting that I actually think that the recent AI kerfuffle that's going on, or kerfuffle may not be the right word, is kind of negatively impacting it, because I'm noticing people, I don't know, they're not very
Perceptive.
Well, AIs are a really hot topic. Like, people are getting angry about AIs. So I want to talk about AI generated artwork and music and all that sort of fun stuff. Go. Bryce, hit me.
Interesting. I definitely find myself noticing when things are very mid-journey looking. Somebody puts an icon or avatar or cover art up that's got the sort of fantasy or mutation hallmarks that are the tells of mid-journey. It does make me think, oh, low effort. But those are the rare exceptions where people haven't then used the material that they did either as an interactive prompt and going back and forth with the neural generated stuff and putting their own touches on it. But I'm not exactly sure what the words are to talk about that. It's the there's like the bad to pay fallacy of sorts, is you only notice these things when it's really obvious, and the rest of the time, all the other tens of thousands of examples that really work fine, we don't even see it. And to be honest, I didn't notice it with your art. I think it's well integrated and blended with enough intentionality and pertinence to the subject and stylistic changes that it's not just a basic text prompt with the trending on ArtStation weighted tag. But yeah,
I will say this. If you're into horror or creepy, AI generated stuff is fantastic, and I want to talk about this new one that everyone's getting very up in arms about in a minute. Like, the thing about AIs is that it is all about Uncanny Valley, and it will be for a while. So take advantage of that. Like, if you want to do something creepy, AI generated stuff is creepy as fuck because it's Uncanny Valley. It's right there trying to figure out, does the robot's face look plastic and creepy, or does it look real? It looks creepy. And if you type in creepy and Uncanny Valley into your, when you're doing this stuff, it's really, really nice. And I, and just the whole thing about this new one is interesting. And it's interesting that I am seeing people talk about how it has bitten from several artists. All I know is what I've read people online getting angry about. I haven't fact checked this. I haven't looked at the research. I haven't really looked at anything about it. But what I do know is I think that it's giving, people are doing the same thing they did in the Industrial Revolution and picking up their picks and hammers and smashing the sewing machines again. Because those synthesizers are going to kill rock and roll. Let me tell you. But, also, I know things are weird. I actually love the look of Midjourney. I love it. Because I love creepy. But, this is the same thing when auto-tune happened. Everything was auto-tuned, and everything was Believe. And then it slowly became a thing where you don't pick it anymore. Same thing when the DX7... first came out. I can't do that anymore because now I fucking own one and I love it. When the DX7 first came out, it's everywhere. When the Mini Moog came out, it was the Beatles had a Moog. Everyone had a Moog, and it's just this lump. It's like dubstep. It was the thing where it was bubbling under the surface for many, many, many years. Thanks, Horotron, and then a couple of people made it a thing, and. Come on, man, that first Skrillex release is fucking insane. It's bloody amazing. Then we had to put up with 10 years of bro step. It's a real pity that people are... The really good thing about AI stuff is that people have an opportunity to create art and, really experiment with art by having a conversation with an AI. And that's... Sure, the robots are coming and they're going to kill us. I don't fucking care. The thing about it is that people have the opportunity to create something. And if they want to take it a step further, if they want to use it for the basis, that's great. Not everybody's brain thinks inventively. Well, actually, everybody's brain does think inventively, but they think inventively in different ways. So they're not going to be able to, scoop in there and have a backwards and forwards with a computer the way, some of you guys would. I'm ranting now. Ivan, give me facts.
Okay, first, I've already noticed that if you go into using an AI art platform, if you're already pretty good at art, you get better results than somebody who's just going in cold. Because you having using better words to describe what you want going on. You have a better depth of understanding of what you want to be going on. And so, we just right there. I mean, it's stopped being something to worry about, and it's a tool. It's a tool. That's it. I mean, I vividly remember back in the mid-late 90s, if you were doing digital as your like primary medium for, you know, like still art, you know, drawn pictures, and you went to a, you know, an artist and were like, hey, check this out, it didn't matter how good or bad it wasn't art. They're just like, nah, that's not art. You did it with a computer, it doesn't work, you know, it doesn't count, game over.
Yeah. Yeah, but we have to get used to this augmentation of art and life and everything that is everything now. Ivan, did you want to add anything to that fantastic spiel, or am I going to throw it to Mark, who's going to bust out some facts?
Actually, like, and most of the tools are they're either pretty decent or not that good. There is no great yet. Yeah, because I've done that. You know, like my music video was, you know, completely computer generated video, the whole thing end to end. I spent zero time in a video editor making that work. I never took a camera out. I never did any of that. I just let it run for like 6 hours to generate it, and then, you know, added a title to it. That was it. And it works. You know, it turns out it kind of, if you got any kind of visual acuity problems, it will make your head spin. So, yeah, things happen. Lessons were learned. Will I do it again? Yes. I'm going to do like a more advanced version the next time. Something a bit like, it's going to take a whole lot more work to set up. But, you know, like, it's a tool worth experimenting with. It's fun. I also tried, you know, like I tried an AI lyric generator. Oh my, it did not make good stuff. It made bad stuff. It made useless stuff. It was just like, wow, that makes even less sense than me writing could make. So that's saying something. And then what else have I tried?
That made even less sense than me writing could make.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. There's one other tool that I tried, and yeah, I mean, it's all varying degrees of good or bad. And I have definitely found with AI image generators, if you could seed it with like a picture that you've taken, it is easier to get to good results faster. So those are my thoughts.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much. Mark, hit me.
Okay, so if I may speak in defense of some of the artist concerns.
Of course.
I do see that the main issue I see is that for people who they want like a custom profile picture or something like that, I do see the artist concern, because if you're not extremely picky about what you want, then yes, you can throw a prompt to an AI and then bam, you got what you want. You can get 100 variations in like a couple of minutes. Never talk to an artist. I understand that, because that means those artists, they can't get anything. But if you want something custom made with a lot of detail to it, you can't do that with AI, at least right now. It's either just gonna not recognize some words, or it's just not, or the prompt would be too long. You just can't do it. So I do understand some concerns. Yes?
No, I'm next. Oh. No, you're talking. I want you to keep going.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
so, like,
because of the training, it ends up looking.
He's talking. Will you wait?
A little derivative.
What?
The art it generates can look a little derivative.
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, yeah, and then the other thing I do support artists on is that I do not think you should be able to use living artists' names in the prompts. Because I do understand, I think it was Greg Rutowski, his name comes up in a lot of prompts. But the problem with that is he doesn't want bad art associated with his name. So, like, I completely respect that. Like, I only use dead people's names. That way, you know, it's not like, oh, well, I'm making this person look bad who is still trying to live off of his art. Or her art. Their art. There we go. So I do see that. I do have a lot of thoughts about the process, and all of it is theft, but I'll say that for a different time, because that's could be a lot of back and forth.
Well, that's possibly along the lines of what we're going. Just before I do, thank you very much. And that everything is theft is a very valuable communication that we might happen, because we've had that one with sampling as well 20, 30 years ago, and it's still valid. Ivan, did you want to add something before I throw it to Razzie?
Yeah. No, the theft thing, mostly that's coming from the use of training images, and the training image sets are gigantic, and so it's crossing the borders all over the place. Thing is, if you're a kid, in the living room, doing something with crayons, and you're trying to get better, you're gonna look at other artists, and they're going to have an effect on where you're trying to go. The big problem is like, you can't just copy and paste. Which, the AI can just copy and paste and then, imagine upon that.
Mark says no. We can have a conversation. It's fine.
Yeah. That was the thing I was alluding to. So the short version is that a lot of people are accusing the AI of basically just copying something it saw and pasting it. But that is absolutely not how Stable Diffusion, at least Stable Diffusion, works.
Yeah,
and a lot of people have that mistake.
How does it work?
I want to make sure that is clear.
You should tell me how it works, because I don't know. Okay.
So I'm not an expert, but as far as I understand, so what happens is, I think OpenAI or Leon, I forget exactly what the company's name is, they got together a huge data set of over 2 billion images scraped from the internet. And then they basically told an AI, they assigned tags to describe these images to the AI. So like if it was a picture of a boat, they would say, okay, this is a boat. It is on water. And I think they also had access to another piece of basic computer vision to say, okay, that is a boat. And then say, human, is this a boat? Yes, that's a boat. Okay, good. So that is a boat. So it described all the images, and then they basically trained the AI on what a boat looks like based off of all of these images. So that when you say, I want to see a boat, it shows you a boat based off of those images. But the thing is, the actual file you need to run this software is Stable Diffusion is what I'm mostly talking about, is I think around like 4 gigabytes. So obviously it does not contain all of those images. So it's based on its training set. It is drawing things. It is not saying, let me grab boat like 768 and put that in the image. That is not what's happening. And a lot of people don't realize that. And like along those lines, another thing that people were accusing it of is like, hey, look, you can see the remnants of an artist's signature in here. No, it is not showing an artist's signature. What it is doing is saying, I have seen so many images that have a signature in the bottom, so let me put some squiggles down there. Like, it's not copying. Okay. It's drawing based on learning.
Yeah, no, and it will result in it using styles that it's seen. And and the boat example, it knows roughly what a boat in the water looks like because of all the training images. Mm-hmm. And what you get is the hallucination of that phrase. So the AI hallucinates what that boat in the water is going to look like. And much like our own dreams, it's going to include things that we obviously recognize because we've seen them. You see it in the images, like, oh, I kind of recognize that, but it's only kind of. Yeah, it's not really a cut and paste.
Okay, so if I may ask.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Rezi. Actually, Rez, I want you to go first. I want to know if Lucia, it's called Lucia, right? Is that software called Lucia or Lucinia or something?
The one that makes the popular avatar.
Yeah, I wanna swing around to that, but first, just prompt me on that because I'm gonna forget.
Yeah.
Razzie, I want you to talk about what you wanted to talk about. The floor is yours.
I think that there's a lot of interesting discussions, but one of the ones that keeps coming up is that I think Imogen is the company that has the data set that Google and OpenAI are using to pit their neural nets against. And there is copyright encumbered work used to train the models. And in that corpus, there is stuff that people have put on the internet, and putting things on the internet does not necessarily mean that you give up your right to control how it gets used. But at the same time, we're talking about a very similar process to what any artist does. And I think both of you alluded to that in this hallucination of the work that you've seen. Just because this model looked at a living independent artist's work to come up with techniques and stuff doesn't necessarily mean that it had permission to incorporate that work into a derivative work. The laws in our country happen to favor, yes, derivative works are significantly changed and used for educational purposes, things like that. There's lots of tests to see right now what we agree makes it okay for a work that you control to be used and reused. And man, I hope there's another episode of Kirby Ferguson, Everything's a Remix, I think is his name, that did the film. It's a couple parts of a fantastic, amazing, insightful, in-depth film about reusing work and the recent history of how that worked in sampling and needle drops and scratching and DJ stuff. With that copyright test in mind, I think it's going to get kind of interesting when Disney and Marvel decide that stuff that they put out on the internet in the header of their website promoting a movie is determined to have been used or tested to have been used in a prompt that somebody gave to Stable Diffusion and then used in a commercial setting. There's going to be some interesting jostling and tests to see what we approve of and what we believe in as a culture protecting the interests of humans that created the work in a new world where the tools that humans made create the work.
Okay, this is very interesting, especially when you start talking about the hallucination of the mind and the hallucination of the AI. Shit gets really interesting there. But so my question is that what people are saying about whatever this new AI thing is, I don't know what it's called. I don't really care. But everybody, Lucia, what's it called?
I believe it's Lensa.
That's it. Is that founded?
What do you mean by founded?
That it's robbing from artists, and is that what a lot of people are saying is I'm boycotting all AI art because or something because it's stealing from artists.
That's the crux of the discussion for sure. Like, I think I'm picking up from Mark. You're also saying that these tools that we devised to do similar things to what we do are taking inspiration from the work. They're not using the work wholesale, and it's a knee-jerk reaction to reject outright the tools, synthesizing sources, turning them into a new work, and using that new work as if it was your own because the tools that you bid to do the creation. So I'm not sure exactly which argument you're hearing, Carl, like the rejection from, but it's cheesy as fuck the way that a lot of people select their avatars and stuff, and that's something to rail against, and it's ugly or obnoxious or racist or dismissive of the great swath of things that people want to express when they use these tools. And there's a lot to talk about there for sure, but case by case, man, right?
Sure. All right. So in the 90s, the whole sampling thing was huge. It was the conversation. And, when I was at uni, the core thing about the human process of creativity, arguably, is adopt and adapt. Arguably, to be inspired by, to pay homage to rip off. Adopt and adapt, excuse me. And what's really fascinating now is that now we have this child drawing in crayons on the floor called AI that's being inspired by all of this other stuff. that is trying to my understanding, create the way a human creates, but in doing so, it's created something fucking fantastic and new has happened. We've created a monster. This is going to be really funny because what it's going to do, because Terminator went, well, you know, the whole Judgment Day thing, that's really passé now. Let's install Outrage and they'll fucking kill each other. Let's do that. And they are succeeding in that beautifully. So, yeah, it's just really interesting that I don't, you know, to throw it back at other people is that, you know, maybe you need to research more artists, like alive or dead. Great, so we can use Geiger, we can use Alexander McQueen.
You're making a really good point in that, and I think, Mark, I think you said it also, the skills that you have, or maybe Ivan, one of the four of us, three of you said it, the skills that you have going into this, whether it's ChatGPT or Stable Diffusion or any of the others, building the prompts and crafting the prompts, the breadth of influence that you have and skills that you have forming a mental image of what you want to get out of it, the better you can do. And knowing a lot about art certainly helps you go into these things with more words about art, and it may render better results. Better?
Yeah. I mean, like, we could, damn, you know, basically, you're telling me that AIs are basically doing an Andy Warhol. Kind of.
I mean, we're doing the Andy Warhol in that we're hiring a staff of hip, young AIs to go do what we just told them to do in our play loft.
Yeah.
And all on the walls. You know?
So, yeah, I mean, like, you know, to me this is such a fucking crazy opportunity because, like, what happens if you put in words such as H.R. Geiger next to Cindy Sherman? And, of course, you all know who Cindy Sherman is, the great photographer and feminist artwork icon, who did these fantastic photos of women in really difficult situations from the 70s. I think she's still going. I think she's still alive. Really important stuff. You know, what happens when there's a mix? Hi, Diana. What happens when there's a mix between these two? Alex, we're talking about AIs. That's all I really wanted to say. I personally love them. I personally find them to be an endlessly fascinating thing because I love creepy. And dude, fucking mix that shit with real photography. Get in there and have fun with it. Other people will disagree with me. So we can keep talking about this, or we could move on to the subject of AI in music.
I want to just maybe put one of my last thoughts
Sure,
on.
yeah.
That is, I don't have kids, but I think kids get to use calculators on tests now, just as a ratcheting Overton window shift of outrage. When I was in school, you definitely weren't allowed to use calculators on any of the general testing, and this sort of feeds into the notion of, do we lose, and is it important to press to preserve, the pipeline of amateurs becoming skilled professionals and developing interests and techniques and pushing the state of the craft outside of what is already algorithmically possible? Will we lose out on people becoming intrigued by taking a brush to canvas and understanding how light works through their own filters and techniques? Or is that going to, you know, be put into the hands of just the few people that still dig that stuff and want to do it old school style, just the same way we still have people who know how to use a slide rule and abacus?
Yeah, that's really interesting. Alex, I see your hand. I'd love to know your thoughts on this.
Yes, I have a change of heart regarding AI because I realized that most of it is fairly middle of the road if you get used to their art style. Because if you've seen one, you usually have seen many, or like you get used to what it can do, And I think the artistry becomes then to make the AI do specific things you want it to do. So the window sort of shifts from directly drawing to manipulating the AI in a way you want it to, like which is a skill in itself. And I think that's the way it will go, because when everybody's used to the look of those images, I think just what will be art will shift slightly.
For sure, man. And what will be music is shifting slightly because of the overwhelming technological input of music. Like, you know, hey man, there's documented arguments that music that was done on a piano wasn't real music because it wasn't a harpsichord and it wasn't a flute section, etc. It was a loud, obnoxious butter thing. And those arguments are 400 years old, 300 years old, 350 years old. And it's just, you know, it's this is interesting, and it's yet another technological revolution that we're moving through. We seem to be moving through one a week at the moment, but I think it's fascinating. I read somewhere that Spotify is now it has noticed a massive influx in album artwork that is AI generated or partly AI generated. I don't know. It is what it is, and once again, I'm just going to say to everyone, I think that take this as an opportunity to expand your horizon about art. And if there's an artist you really like and you're going to use their code word, go to an art gallery and buy one of their books. Or find one of their books. Chris Foss, for example, is an artist I always talk about, I always use. I buy Chris Foss books, or fucking Basquiat, or whoever. Buy one of their books, or donate to them online or something. Gee, I don't know. I was gonna buy an Alexander McQueen, but I figured out that was like 30 grand for a jacket. That was an attempt at humor. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Alex, the floor is yours.
I think with AI music, the train for that has passed long time, because loop libraries have been around since maybe the 90s or so, and people have made mediocre music with pre-produced snippets since forever. So that was my first music, just slapping together a beat and a looped synth, and that was like my first thing I did. And I think it's something I progressed from, but I think it won't be worse than that.
I just want to pick up really quickly before I throw to you, Ivan. I think we're sort of moving towards the music topic. People have made mediocre. And then you can follow that with anything you want. People have made mediocre. It's funny, you make mediocre and you have every dream tool at your fingers and you're going to make mediocre. Or maybe not, but you know what I'm saying here. People have made mediocre. I am going to be pushing this conversation towards, how do you not make mediocre? Because, fuck man, I've made quite a lot of mediocre in my time. I hope you haven't heard any of it. I hope I didn't release any of it, but this is something I want to bring back to. How to not make mediocre, how to use art and brushes and canvases and AI and all of this shit in the way it's not meant to be used. Because that's what humans do. We don't follow the rules. That's why we're cooler than machines. Ivan, hit me.
So I was talking to Ugg the other day, and
Ugg?
Yeah, he was talking about how
Ugg?
He was talking about how much the culinary world has been destroyed.
Culinary? What is culinary?
Culinary, the culinary world.
Culinary.
The culinary
Ugg,
world.
You have a friend named Ugg.
By the introduction of
Ugg.
Yeah, by the introduction of fire. Fire ruined everything. Used to be that we just ate it raw. It was great.
Right.
I'm glad my sixth sense of humor. Glad my sixth sense of humor can help.
No, that was good. Ugg, I know Ugg. Sure.
He lives in the cave down by the tree.
Yeah. I was hunting dinosaurs. I know that guy. With the leather skin kind of tunic thing.
Yes.
Yeah, the hair and the big eyebrows and the club. Ugg, I know Ugg.
That bastard just didn't taste the steak yet.
Yeah, right. Which leads beautifully into the Matrix, which leads beautifully into oh my god.
The now on AI like music generation tools, I've got a variety of AI MIDI generators that will generate a tune or generate fill in the blank, and mostly these days I use them to generate some stuff that just makes me feel better about how I'm coming along myself. Like because they always just the mediocre is at best the description I would use to describe them, because like they just don't end up sounding that good. It's like they spend a lot of time trying really hard to like follow music theory rules, and they get stuck, and like they just end up sounding horrible, like unlistenably bad. At the same time, like Isotope's mastering tools, it uses AI to do mastering, and it's good at that. Arguably, but way better than me, because I'm really, really bad at that. So, pick and choose, use what's working. Maybe someday, AI will be able to come up with a tune that doesn't make you cringe. We'll see.
It will. It definitely will. And you used mediocre a few more times, but I want to circle back to that. Thank you very much for that. That was really, really good. Alex.
I think the way to make stuff that's more than just run-of-the-mill is to seek out places where that are not where that are not like the obvious answer. To just try out many different things and stray from the path and oh god, I had it way better in my head. I don't think it has to be hard necessarily, but it shouldn't be always the obvious answer. And of course, like the one man's junk is the other one's treasure. Yeah.
I'm just going to thank you very much, Mark. I'm going to throw it to you. Then Rezi, can you control the floor? I have to deal with the cat. I'll be right back. Have to deal with the cat. I'll be right back.
All right, so before we completely move away from Stable Diffusion, I recently came across Rift Diffusion, which it creates audio spectrograms, which you can then feed into another algorithm to produce music. It's only short loops right now, so it's not full tracks, but it's just something fun I came across, so put in the chat.
I have not yet listened to my knowledge, nor willingly gone to a music generation by neural net or diffusion algorithm site that claims to do anything. So it may be time, like this might be the week, it's going to happen. But my assumption is that you can put a text prompt in somewhere and get a full song track, probably with lyrics, vocals, whatever instrumentation you choose, and have something that resembles a song. Is that the state of the art right now? Does this exist?
So Rift Diffusion, they basically said, like, if you wanted to get a full song, you would need from a spectrogram, you would need a ridiculously wide image, or tall. I'm not sure which one they said. I think it's long. You need a ridiculously wide image.
Usually time goes this way, and
so it's unlikely to be done with Stable Diffusion right now. Yeah. I think they said I think most of them come out to be around like 5-6 seconds, because I think it's 512 by 512 is the ideal Stable Diffusion resolution. But it's like it's possible. But like I listened to a few of the examples they have posted, and I generated one of my own, and like, yeah, it's fine for a short loop. It's definitely one of those. It's a cool proof of concept.
Mm-hmm. The question, I guess, directs towards, I've seen people mention, and I know that this is an interesting balance of things. Yes, Ivan, like you said, there is no shortage of human-generated crappy loops of mediocrity to put together, or to put a couple of keywords in and have a group of, and their tempo matched, and they'll stretch properly, and you'll get something resembling a song or a loop. But I swear I've seen people at least start talking about some of the text prompt style ways of doing that into a browser or something, and it runs on a powerful backend to generate something that's a little bit more of a song. Is that something anybody has stumbled on? Ivan, you're saying it has. What have you?
Yeah, I've run into a couple of tools that will generate the MIDI. It's not going to write a whole song for you.
MIDI is one thing. Okay, that's a start.
Yeah, writing music is turns out is really, really complicated. Good. Which good for us. And every time I've tried them, like I've gotten junk, like stuff that I just can't use.
Alex, what are your thoughts on that one?
I think these things are most fun and interesting if they don't work properly. Like if they glitch out and do things no human wouldn't ever do. I think that's my favorite things with the iMusic. And since it has gotten better, it has gotten less interesting for me personally.
I'm right there with you. I mean, going back to the very first synths that I bought, I'm sure I've told it on this group before. I got a PV-DPM3 workstation and pushing the parameters all the way up and then modulating them with another LFO so that they went beyond where they should go, and they started playing back the other sample data into the buffer and making just glitches and horrible noises. I was delighted. That was one of the most fun things about it. I would explore and figure out all the other ways to break it. So yeah, breaking these systems is part of the pleasure and part of what I think this group in particular is suited to doing. Carl, it's your show.
Well, thank you very much for taking over. Sorry I missed a bit of that. So it's like you said, it's about breaking shit. It's about pushing it beyond. R2D2 didn't speak Shakespeare. He spoke bleep bloop. Or she or they. It's really important. Like if you throw lyrics out of an AI generator and they're hinting towards something, change just a few words and see what happens. Like this is playing tennis with a computer that, so you fuck with it. Because I don't use AI generated stuff except images. But I found that what a computer thinks a person will like and what a person likes are very different. Because people have got this really weird thing in their brains called the, oh wow, that's interesting, and the, oh wow, that's interesting factor. And when you say it, it's got to be in a falsetto like that. Oh wow, that's interesting. And your eyes are going to get bigger. It's quite often it's unquantifiable, I think. Because I've thrown shit at the audience where it's like, oh, this is what they want to hear, and it's like, yeah. But then you throw something at them that's like, and they go, oh wow, that's interesting. And all you need to do is, if you're going to use an AI generator, if you're going to use a computer to help you with this shit, is like Rezi said, push shit past the acceptable limits of what it can do. And that can be adding a few words here and there. Like, yeah. You gotta fuck with that shit. Rez!
It's funny, I was just before this meeting started listening to a guy who was working in the area of the psychology of that sort of surprise and innovation and delight between neural net models, machine learning, and humans, and how the correlates differ among them. So it's likely, or I would say it's on the way that the models will be incorporating novelty and delight sort of concepts into the iteration. So it might be closer than we're imminent. It might be on the way.
Cool.
I have to finish listening to the interview, is I guess what I'm saying. I'll do that. One of the other things I wanted to note about this, I think we're back to computer models doing the work and mediocrity both together. I've started over the past, took years to happen, but there's this downward trend toward finally I'm finding it easier to sometimes launch Logic and look at the little MIDI thing to see what chord I'm playing rather than look down at my hand to figure out what the stacked notes are actually spelling. And I mean, the tools are there. I can always pretty much rely on it until they're not. And I wonder if those absolute skills that I used to be able to call on kind of atrophying. I'm thinking that they're a little bit to the detriment of pushing beyond familiarity and comfort and some of that things that I think cuts at the heart of mediocrity is pushing beyond. So there's got to be some effort, I think. I mean, I've been feeling it lately that I really need to start re-ear training and going back to some of the basic skills that the computers have so deftly taken over for me.
I totally and absolutely agree. The computers are not mediocre. I am. I am making choices. I am getting lazy. I am phoning shit in. This is about, I think the computers are just holding up going, bitch, you're lazy. Rob, welcome. We're talking about AI-generated images and AI-generated music, and we'd always love to hear what you have to think and say on these things. So, yeah, I think that for me, it's a constant question of what can I do to push it beyond? What am I doing? Where am I going here? Even if it's like using a sample of something that, because I have this thing about major thirds and minor thirds. Like, if it's a major third, it's a major third. And if it's a minor third, it's a minor third. But don't you fuck with those two things. I'm same with sixes, flat sixes and you know, regular sixes. So I am trying to incorporate music that has got a melody line running through it or a little arpeggiator or a sample or something that is going, oh, it's a major third, now it's a minor third. Oh, it's a major third, now it's a minor third. Just to sort of, whether it makes it in the track or not, constantly trying to go home via a different path. Because my musical process, every fucking process I do takes the same path. And, you know, and breaking that path is, I'll tell you a bloody good thing about AI generated stuff is, why don't you go onto your favorite AI generated thing and you type in, you've got a song, you're working on a song, and it makes you feel like these. Here are keywords that the song makes you feel. That song makes me feel dark, running, nighttime, excited, energy, fight, whatever. Type them words into your text generated, AI generated image. Come up with a whole bunch of photos, drop them into a folder, and just have a slideshow going on. So now, instead of being prompted by music or something or lyrics, you threw words that make you feel like into an AI generated thing. And you're just watching this slideshow, and it might be 20 images, boom, 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 around they go, and you're being inspired by that. And then that gets your music to the next thing, and now you're feeling like this thing. Maybe you'll say, oh, I really feel like that this reminds me of insert artist here. And now it makes me feel more like Blade Runner or something, or whatever these new words are. Stick them in the AI generated thing, get yourself another 20 images, put them on slide return. What lyrics and words does this make you, does this inspire you to write? So how can you utilize these fantastic things cheaply as possible to help push you and to become a writing partner? Because I'll just say really quickly, because I saw Rezzy's hand go up, that the greatest writing partner I have in music is visuals and airy-fairy words, but predominantly visuals. If I can write to a visual, to an idea, it just comes. But if someone goes, I've got a riff, and it's in E, it's like, okay, let's do that. You know? Whereas if you're looking at a pyramid on Mars being struck by a bolt of lightning, and there's clouds around it, what key's that in? What chordal progression is that? What sound is the lightning? What sound is the pyramid? What sound can evoke the smell of Martian soil? Or, what's it called? Martian soil. Huh?
Regolith.
Regolith, which I also call Californian soil. What do the clouds smell like? What do the clouds on Mars sound like? What do these things, what do these images, what sounds and words do these images evoke? That is fucking exciting. And then you might even be doing that while you're programming your synthesizer for that song. You might go, I am now creating the sound of that Martian pyramid. That pyramid sounds like this. That big, ominous sound. And now here are these clouds. These are what those clouds sound like. Now here's that lightning bolt. This is what it sounds like. Do that. Get inspired. Razzie, did you have your hand up, or was I hallucinating?
You saw it, and you covered everything I had to say about what you were prompting me to think of eloquently, which is sort of exactly what you were talking about. But
thank you. Does anybody please throw into this, because this is a really, and swords and synthesizers, welcome. Thank you. Rob, welcome again. Diana, it's always good to see you. Anna, 1829, welcome. And I saw Wolf Raven as well in the chats there. Thank you for being part of this. I want to hear, what are we thinking? Where are we going? Bring something up. Get inspired or not.
I got one. Does any music suck, or is everything a matter of taste?
Alex, go.
I don't think music can like suck. Definitely, or it has a defined state of sucking. But I think music can fail to accomplish its goals. That's the way I view it.
Okay, that's really interesting. Mark?
I think music can objectively suck in that it's badly or unintentionally made. Like, if your recordings are just full of static and that was not your intent, it's just bad. It was badly produced. I think that is music that can suck. But I don't think necessarily you can put your heart into something and put, a basic level of like effort to make sure things are done right, and it suck. Like, I don't think I think this music's just not for everyone or not for someone, but I think only essentially bad quality music is actually bad.
Okay, thank you very much. Raz?
As a listener, how do you get to determine if the music doesn't meet its goals or intentions?
Okay.
You do not.
This is good. Rob, I want to go in after you and shoot my mouth off, but I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I think any music can potentially suck. It depends on what you do with it, especially if you use it to torture people. It can be really good music, but watch any horror movie and there's always some creepy freaking theme running in the background, and that for that person in that moment, that music sucks. And to be honest, country music sucks, gospel sucks. There's a lot of music that sucks. It's the intention is the issue and how you use it. I get the fact that people make noise and crap like that, and yeah, that can be sucky too, but it's what works for you and what sucks for you. That's all.
Thank you, man. This is really fascinating because, like, I've spoken before about my intense hatred for Journey, but Journey are one of the greatest bands on earth. They're fucking brilliant, but I hate them. And sometimes I wonder, is that hatred because of experience in life? Or I went to a karaoke bar and all they're singing is Don't Stop Believing? Or, badly? Why do I hate Journey? I shouldn't hate Journey. I should really like Journey. And if you don't know who Journey is, go listen to Journey. I'm having a conversation at the moment with a friend of mine, and I'm not going to get angry. She doesn't like ABBA. How can you not like ABBA? Holy crap, Voulez-Vous is the greatest chorus ever written. And every other song they wrote as well. It really, Voulez-Vous, da-da-da-da-da. It's great. That shit is monumental. How can you not fucking like ABBA? But she doesn't like ABBA. And that's fine. I'm sort of dealing with that a bit. It's like I poke puppies or something. The fuck? But anyway, some of the people in some of the hardest, most terrifying bands I have ever met, terrifying bands, their favorite bands are ABBA. And ABBA were really interesting because they did a whole bunch of weird shit in their music, in the musicality, and in their arrangements, and in the way the song structure. Really interesting stuff, man. Way ahead of the ball. It's really interesting that I ask myself this question: is am I guilty of letting music suck, like releasing something that is suck? And it's funny that I get into processes because I need a process. As an artist, I think it's very important to have some kind of process, because your brain doesn't work in a process where it's like, ah! But if you don't, for me at least, if I don't have some kind of process, time-wise, production-wise, the way I'm putting the song together-wise, and that process changes from album to album, I'm not going to write a fucking album. And I think one of the things about Angelspit is shit always sounds different because the process, the engine that drives it, is always changing from album to album. So if you want to do something different, start with the way you're doing something. And it's really difficult as an artist, I'm sort of hijacking this, I apologize, to have a process in place that is not letting you output something that is rubbish. But on the other side of that is that if you have an amazing idea and you've now listened to it 300 times, it's rubbish. Doesn't matter how good it is, you're still going to think it's rubbish. So you really need to start the process with some way of, I have so totally hijacked this. You, in your process as an artist, musician, whatever, you have to have a box that's ticked that says this bass line is good, this melody is good, this chord progression is good. After you've heard it 300 times, you're going to hate it, but just remember, refer back to that box. The joke's funny. Keep going with it. I'm going to shut up now. I didn't answer the question. Alex?
I think you have to try to make the best music the situation allows. Like, for example, my chord progressions could be way better, like, for example. But if I don't just do the best I can in the moment, I will never finish, which is the status quo for me. So I think you have to qualify that's the best for the situation.
Totally agreed. And just to throw something back at you, Resi, I see you're saying it just super fast. If you're not happy with your chords and you can't find someone to work with, use an AI. Just see what happens. And I actually also did a blipfert on how to make your music sound more creepy, and I should find that and stick that into the hoo-ha. That sounded rude, and I apologize. Resi, I saw your hand go.
I was just going to say that, yes, perfection tends to be the obstacle of getting shit done, but that kind of growth and perfection can happen over a span of years and many iterations and releases, and I think that that's shown to be more effective than trying to do the perfection before you ever release anything. Like, get started, do something, make the iterations, get the feedback from the people that you respect and are interested in hearing. And that I think also as a group, we've come to the answer to my question that yes, all music can suck, but it is absolutely in the ears of the situation and the person listening at that time to make the determination. And that the language we could use is, does this meet your goals? And were you smart enough to cut bait and let your goals not be met and put it out and just have that understanding? And for you, that might mean that some of your earlier work does suck, but you got it out and you did stuff and you grew and you got better and you learned. And that's probably a more important question than does my music suck?
Overwhelmingly agree. Hold on, I just found this thing and I'm putting this, I'm going to put this in the chat. This is a blipfert I did, a video thing on how to make your music sound more evil, using chords and all that sort of stuff. There you go. Have a look at that.
Realize that my original question is the same as what is art, but you know, we do need to talk about something.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, especially when we're talking about AI and all that jazz. You know, what is art is at the core of this question. What is art? What is plagiarism? is there really such a thing as an original thought, which is postmodernism in a teacup, or in a Campbell's soup stencil on the wall?
Nice.
Boom. This stuff is, I think one takeaway of this is find half a day, go to an art gallery in your city or town, most of them are free, and just walk around and stand in front of an art piece where you go, I don't get this, I don't like this, I don't know what's going on. Stand in front of it and ask yourself, how long did it take the artist to do this? What was the creative process of it? Find something that you can appreciate about that artwork, because if it's hanging in an art gallery, it's got to be good by someone's ears or eyes or nose. Who knows? Rob!
I took my son to an antique store the other day because I thought he would like to get something weird and wacky for his girlfriend for Christmas or somebody like that, I don't know. And there was some amazing artwork, old black and white photographs from the wars, like World War II and Vietnam and stuff like that. There was some posters and some old records from the 70s and just some really weird artifacts in that store. And we came home with some weird shit. And that weird shit was compelling. It was stuff that smelt really bad and made you cough because it was like full of mothballs. But to think about who used to own this and who used to prize this object, go listen to that album that's from the 70s, go read this book from the 60s or the 70s and think about what has happened in the past that's been forgotten. And one of the books we picked up was a book on one of the concentration camps in World War II, and it was really graphic. And my son looked at it and he said, I don't know if I could look through this book. And I said, well, why do you think they printed it? Why is it being discarded? Why has nobody bought it? And I thought, maybe this is something that can stir humanitarian interest. We forget so much. We forget about catastrophe. We forget about the loss. We're lucky because we're alive. And I had a lot of these emotions when I was looking through the book, and I thought, I really need to take some of these images out and put them into a song or a video clip. And I need to touch the intent of the producer of the book and understand exactly what they were trying to message. And it was a full story. It was a story from the early 30s or late 20s all the way through post-World War II. And the number that stuck in my head was 31,738. It was the number of people that were killed at this camp, most of them before World War II. And it was about the persecution of innocent people. And I thought that was super powerful. So, like Carl said, an art gallery or maybe a library, just go randomly choose a book, and that can be really, it can evoke emotions and want you to write lyrics. It just certainly makes me want to write lyrics and get into a dark mood.
Yeah. Get a library card. Join up with the American library system is fantastic. I know the German library system is probably better. Julius works in the libraries. Who sent me a Christmas card. Thank you, Rob. That was amazing. Get inspired outside the screen. Get inspired and get fed creatively and intellectually beyond what an algorithm, there's that word again, is feeding you. Get out of the house. Look at a book. Smell paper. Stick your nose in a book and smell the damn paper. There's a library walking distance down here, and they have this Hollywood. It's just this little East LA library, but they've got the movie section is amazing, and they've got these books on the making of Alien, which is. I've never seen these images. I've never seen these drawings. I've never seen, and it is endlessly inspiring to me. Everything about that movie is so inspiring. because there was a bunch of people going, fuck it, let's do something totally different. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about Alien. I want to talk about what Rezzy's about to talk about. Go.
Yeah, I completely forgot, but Rob's words are a bit moving in that regard, of wanting to reach the artist, I think, and sort of interrogate and understand and have a dialogue with the artist of certain things. I think what it made me think about, last time I got dumped, this was years ago, I committed to going to the Museum of Fine Arts Boston every week on the free day for the entire time they were open. And I managed to stretch it out for months. I was just, one piece at a time, spending an hour in one room or one wing or one subject. And it was really good. It was like, I felt like I was growing and discovering new worlds and civilizations, and it was my exploration and introspection. And one of the things that I found was really missing was, like, I wanted to talk to the artists. I wanted to chat with them about talking shop. I wanted to talk about synthesizers with them, which, we indulge in here on a weekly basis, and it's extremely powerful. But it sort of does miss that mark of, Rob, exactly what you were talking about, is the actual emotional components and the topics and what it made them feel, and what they were trying to bring out in the art, and was it successful, or is it all in your interpretation, and having that kind of dialogue. And so talking to the artists isn't always possible. Maybe they're dead. Maybe it's time to find some artists that are alive that you can talk to directly about that sort of thing. But certainly, and on the topic of genocide and stuff, there's some amazing work. I mean, Art Spiegelman's Mouse and Viktor Frankl's book on his experience in the camps. I mean, there's some written word and drawn stuff, obviously, that people are alive and have had those dialogues that you can sort of snoop in on. But anyway, I guess wanted to somehow jump in on what you were saying, Rob, and sort of amplify that.
Thank you. And it's a very important lesson. Remind me, Francis Bacon, for all nations to have their eyes open, because authoritarian is in the air we breathe now, in every country, in every conversation. I wanted to bring up really briefly Francis Bacon, who is an artist that, if you haven't heard of Francis Bacon, you need to hear of Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon was a major inspiration for Geiger, for Alien, for so much stuff. My favorite quote of Francis Bacon is, "Champagne for my real friends, real pain for my sham friends." He was an English painter. It's really funny when you look at his stuff, it kind of looks AI generated, because it's distorted and it's horrific. It's horrifying. And it's beautiful. And he started painting when he was 40. And it's funny, he just had this life experience of, he was in the closet, and he was in England in a time when it was different, very different to be a gay man. And there's just so much pain and anguish in his artwork that next time you jump on an AI generator, oh my God, yeah, the meat popes are always an inspiration. If you jump on an AI generator next time, type in Francis Bacon, see what comes back. Yeah, throw yourself into more art, go to more art galleries. Do it. I was actually trying to go to LA art galleries, but no one was fucking interested. Melody from Queen of the Static Opera turned up to a few, but everyone's just too busy. Or it was the night after a club, I don't know. Okay, does anybody else have anything they want to bring up? Alex, besides Alex, because I'm kidding. Alex, what do you got?
I just want to give a quick update on my revelations about what I want. I think I've brought up that I wanted to get into basically photography and optics, and I had a realization that I sort of was looking for bad optics, specifically like as an effect of or a way to create mood, because I watched lots of YouTube videos about shooting stuff on your phone, on which cameras are the best, and so on, how to frame stuff. But I also experimented with this, which is like a 10 euro glass. Don't know how it's called in English. Glass for making stuff bigger.
What do you call it in
Magnifying
German?
glass.
Lupe.
A lupa.
So I experimented with that, and I really liked how it distorted the scene. And also, I don't know, but sort of looking through it gives the whole thing a vibe. Maybe it's because the surface is dusty and full of fingerprints, and sort of gives a diffusion effect. I don't know. And also got this, which is like an old camera from the 60s or 50s. It's for like film, and I have not enough knowledge to use it. But what I did was you can get the viewfinder out, and I made a photo of this screen, which is like the way where how you see the picture on the viewfinder, because this is just the crystal with the mirror. So that's what I experimented with, and I realized I really like when stuff aren't perfect. So I think a phone and stuff like this is for me to experiment with my way to go, and I don't need something like really fancy, because I think its perfection is sort of discouraging for me, because what I was really after was the artifacts, the way where it isn't perfect. Yeah, that's my inspirational talk for this.
Thank you. I'm just going to stop the show now, and it's now going to become Rezi Talks About Cool Stuff. Thanks for joining us on Art of Rock. Now here's Rezi.
That is so exciting. The sort of topic of cheap lenses, vintage lenses, broken lenses, weird lenses, like there's tons of great inspirational stuff out there. And I know I always turn this into how to collect expensive versions of stuff you can do for cheap. But man, the first thing I got was a telephoto for iPhone. And it was, I think China was producing them, and they were badged and branded, and you could choose whatever price range you wanted, but they were all the same thing. Plastic elements, plastic housing, but they had that chromatic aberration, vignetting, and I shot so much with it, and it was so like aesthetic that I was like, oh, this is the thing I was looking for. And you know, time goes on and I go back to looking for expensive lenses. But if you do like go there at the focusing screens and ground glass, like that is the look that I think maybe we both find inspirational. And sticking, there was like a whole trend maybe 15, 20 years ago of finding ways to point your cell phone at a piece of vellum and have the lens project onto that, so you could get that exact look with any lens. So, oh my God. I actually have in the inexpensive, cheaply made Soviet lenses. There's a whole bunch of the Helios line. If they probably work, does that have a bayonet, a threaded mount? The camera that you have, Alex?
Fortunately, it's like a fixed lens.
Okay.
I don't know how to get it off because I tried. I think it's like fixed to the camera, unfortunately.
That's fine. I mean, you're in the habit now. You're gonna be getting interesting.
Yeah, I think it was my grandfather's, so it's like a family.
I've been using this.
I found it in the cellar.
Sorry, I all excited. This is the Helios M. You know what? I don't even know. 58 millimeter f2, but it's a vintage old lens that I use a lot for that look. And it's got an adapter to go on whichever camera, so I can use it on the Micro Four Thirds or EF mount, and it's like a cool way to go. I'm probably going to get another one in that line. But Holga, Lomography, those are places where you're going to find all kinds of cool, cheap plastic lens stuff. There's a ton of cool shit to acquire secondhand because it's already broken. It's like, oh, so cool. I'll shut up.
I want to throw the floor open. can I just really, I want to come back to this, and I really want to talk about this because this is great fun. Two things I want to bring up. One, I've noticed that my press release group has picked up, that a lot of people are starting to push to magazines again. Secondly, I'm noticing a whole bunch of small clubs starting to pick up that are doing experimental, strange, dark music, and I think we're staring down the barrel of a really exciting resurgence going on. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I actually got this from a club that's in LA, with a magician who does the craziest fucking card trick I've ever seen. I want to talk more about this. Like, I also put in there David Carson. David Carson was a 90s kind of skatey guy who had this magazine called Ray Gun. You might want to write Ray Gun down. It's incredible. David Carson is...
His deconstructed typography was one of the most inspirational things.
It was the 90s.
I totally bought into that.
Yeah.
I built typefaces out of, like, fake chopped up letraset, you know.
Yeah.
It's crazy for that.
You know, it's highly recommend David Carson. Like the merging of technology and photocopiers and overhead transparencies and scanning that shit, just amazing collage, not collage, just funk. And his whole thing on typography was groundbreaking, because his whole thing on typography is, why do you have to read it?
Yeah.
You know, it's
That's exactly, I got yelled at on whatever I put out in '94. It's like, we can't read the lyrics. I'm like, David Carson.
Yeah, right on. How does it make you feel, though? Like, the whole point of these lyrics is to, and all of this stuff is for you to have a feeling. So how about I just create this montage of fucking typographical explosion that leaves you with that feeling? David Carson.
I think it's an interesting little quirk that the words that you couldn't understand in the audio, translating those to unintelligibility in the visual version also, so you don't get any extra, you know, homework done for you in that regard.
Yes. Rob, I see your hand. Go.
Small parts being collected for something.
Good boy.
Somebody in the chat's asking you a question about this.
Yeah,
too.
I know. I see the but I want to talk more about this. Blasterbeams, there's so much synth that's advanced over the past couple of years. So thoughts? Okay, hold on. All right, Rob, I want you to go and did you want to bring something up, Rob?
Just recognizing there is a resurgence of zines. A friend in the music industry in Ottawa just did a big press release of new zines, and they did a stream of all their music whilst, like, in the shop, to encourage people to come and get the zines. And there was a line of people coming in and getting all the zines. It was really cool.
That's great. There's a zine.
Yeah, I've started to put together a Blasterbeam. I'm using a my son's skateboard grinder beam, which is pretty long, and I've just got to get some piano wire and stuff like that. So I might have to go back to your Patreon.
Yes.
And look at your Blasterbeam tips.
Yes.
I'm going to do that.
Can you email me before you buy anything, because I probably have some piano wire I can throw your way.
That would be cool.
Save you a couple of $50-$60 or something.
Yeah, I'll zip it out and show you my length.
All right. Are you going 6 foot, or are you going longer or shorter?
I think it's 7 foot.
Great.
I'll remeasure. It's been a while since I've had it out and measured it.
My advice is, don't go too low. Just don't go below fucking, yes, I think we're still streaming. Don't go below 20 cycles, like really fucking 40 cycles, because, I mean, unless you're doing acoustic stuff, you're running into problems with microphones and speakers being able, as you know, pickups apparently fucking pick up everything, but when a string is really low, it starts slapping against the pickup, and that's problematic. Especially when it's, you know, if it's a 7 foot Blasterbeam, it's probably a 6 foot playing field. So there's a lot of wobble going on, and also the top 2 feet. As you know, when you move a pickup, the sound quality drastically changes. So have those 2, at least foot, maybe even 2 feet, where you can be moving the pickups, and you can be placing pickups. But yeah, Blasterbeams are. There's a whole bunch of things. If I was going to do it again, I'd do differently.
I'm interested to know how you manage with resonance of the beam itself as well, because I noticed in your videos it moves around a little bit. It's not quite stable, and at the moment mine's suspended from the ceiling of the shed with springs.
Wow.
If I ding that, it resonates for like light years.
So yours is aluminium?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Solid.
that's amazing.
Yeah. But I like the idea of moving the bridges. That's got me thinking I might have to MacGyver something.
Yeah, it's interesting that his name is coming to me. The guy that patented the Blasterbeam as opposed to the beam, I should know his name, I can't. His patent actually includes a concept where the pickup is mechanized and it's moving up and down the strings. Only by like that much, but if you move a pickup that much, you're radically changing, the sound of everything. I
also want to try the guitar slide that has the pickup inside of it.
That sounds insane.
It takes a 1/4 inch jack. And it's got a piezoelectric microphone inside of the slide, the guitar slide. And I've tried that on the bass guitar, and it's pretty wild. So I want to try that on a Blasterbeam as an extra input.
That sounds amazing. I say do it. I also think it would be a great idea to have, because the thing about where the beam is, Craig Huxley is the guy's name, where the beam is different to the Blasterbeam is that a Blasterbeam, because of the length and everything else, you can actually, when you bring your slider down on it, the strings or wires actually hit the deck, and that's part of the sound. When they slap the deck like that, with a beam like what I have, you can't really do that because there's my cat. It's like an inch, and you cannot push down that much. And I would be suggesting, if you can, try and build the deck up so that the pickups are down, like a guitar, but the deck is like, 1/3 of an inch or something, as I throw all of this fucking important shit everywhere. It's like built up by like 2/3 of an inch or something, so that when you bring your slider onto it, the slider hits the deck and pushes the strings or wires against it. Gives a totally, really, really brutal sound. And, you could have extra points if that was movable.
Would piano strings work on a whammy bridge?
Probably not. In fact, I will say definitely not. The tension on piano strings is ludicrously crazy. I have to let the cat in because I was placed on this earth too. We just bought her a heating pad.
Rob, could you drop a link to the guitar slide with the piezo pickup in it, or some other prompts that I might actually be able to?
Yeah, let me just grab the one that I bought off eBay. I'll do that in the chat.
Something I'd never even considered nor heard of. It's fascinating.
What did you? Oh, the sliding thing.
Yeah.
Sounds madness. I'm actually thinking I want to if you're gonna put Mesopiezo like contact mics in it, make sure they're good, because like the regular piezos don't pick up anything under 250, 500.
I sent you the shitty ones, didn't I, Carl?
Oh, they're good though, because a lot of, like, I don't use them on the beam. Actually, no, I do use them on the beam. There's apparently a really simple capacitance circuit you can build, but I can't because I'm just awful with bloody computers and stuff, with electronics. That will help make the bass there, because when you've got a 6 foot fucking thing with 24 gauge string on it, that's a lot of bass. That's a lot of fucking bass. That will go down. That will easily go down to 30 cycles easily, and it would be beautiful. Yes, I will talk more about this actually because it's interesting. This I didn't really get a question to. Yes, you can Ebo a Blasterbeam. I haven't done it, but you can do it, Adam. You should be in here, Adam. I hope you're well. We're all thinking of you, mate. There's so much synths that's advanced over the last couple of years. Says Gorp 2. Synths have exchanged over the last couple of years. I'm just not. I'm stuck in 1982, which I realize is. I just advanced to 1983 because I got a DX7. But yeah, I need to fuck with more shit. Does anybody else want to throw some stuff in? We've got a nice thing going on here, except Razzie. Does anybody? I'm kidding. I'm joking. What do you got, man?
And what? You mentioned a second ago about some PR stuff that was bubbling.
Yeah.
Do you have any specifics about that, or do you want to hold off until something?
Well, no. It's just interesting that I think that there's
My question was like, are there any new developments in DIY and direct to fan PR for the next single release that I'm doing? So
I would say that from what I can tell, magazines. I've been noticing this build recently. Maybe it's because people don't have me in the spam folder anymore. But I'm noticing that magazines are starting to pick up. I'm noticing that some places are being more... Something's happening. I feel that something really positive is happening. I think that, the beast is waking up. And I'm seeing more... there's a lot of positivity going on. Same with the DJ responses that I get, and same with a lot of the fan responses I get. Because I send other people's tracks out to the DJs as well, and I'm seeing those tracks, really turning up. And the big thing for me is little tiny clubs in little tiny basements doing really weird shit, and it's awesome. Like, this is what it is to be a goth, except the makeup and the poetry. Razzie, then I'm going to throw it to Rob.
I'm a little bit late again to the game, and I noticed this a few months ago, but Twitch DJs are just exploding. I mean, the number of DJs that have a small club thing, but also do nights from their own basement is, it's incredible. And they're really good, and they have collectives and teams and groups and stuff. And if that has anything to do with what you're seeing, I would not be surprised.
Probably. And they're also doing the raiding parties as well. Like they'll bang for an hour, then raid,
yeah.
which is really...
I discovered a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting that they're not just... it's not just being like group streamed out the one live stream, like a one stream festival. They're actually popping more, which is really interesting. Rob!
I had this wacky idea yesterday. Everyone's frustrated with the lack of space at home for your music gear. And everyone's frustrated with a lack of access to other really good gear. And you've got these maker workshops all over the world these days. There should be like a synth workshop where everyone comes in with their gear and sets it all up, and it's under maximum security so nobody takes your shit. And you can just get in there and jam together and use each other's gear, and that would be so cool if you could do that. Maybe there's some rich bastard out there who could set that up for us one day.
There is actually a massive synth museum in Melbourne. There's one in LA now as well. In fact, the Melbourne Synth Museum, I've talked about this a little bit, is the biggest synth museum in the world. And you've got, you pay a really low monthly fee. And for a lot of people, if they can't afford it, that's like, yeah, fine. But you go in there and you play with CS80s, Jupiter 8s, and all sorts of fucking amazing shit.
That would be sick.
Yeah, I know also that there's a lot of synth groups in Seattle and Chicago, and there's a lot of people doing a lot of meetups and stuff, and it's really fascinating. Like, there's something wonderful going.
I saw somebody tour one in, it was either Germany or Switzerland. Somebody went to one and they had all of the good stuff.
Yeah. Fun. Really quickly, Sign, thank you so much for watching us on YouTube, and thank you for your comment. Have another listen to those lyrics. There's a lot going on in the lyrics of the new track Art Imitates War. It's very, very, very loaded with meaning and politics and thoughts and reflection. So thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. That's on YouTube. So yeah, I think that it's funny. I remember hearing this quote from Brian Eno once saying about how, the master of fucking with shit is Brian Eno, and I remember he had this quote about how a lot of bands say they don't want to go into a studio because of the expense, and they'd rather do it at home. And Brian Eno's comeback to that was, well, if you spend X $100 and go into a studio for a few hours and they've got a whole bunch of gear that you don't have, and an engineer and everything, your brain's going to think differently, and you are going to come up with something different. And you can't, there's no monetary value you can put on that, which is all well and good when you're Brian Eno, who's full of money. But that's why we do these things, Art of Rock, every Saturday morning, so we can just come together and talk about ideas and shit. Does somebody else want to say something amazing? Go!
I'm gonna make a shameless plug. You know how we hate AI and we love AI and we hate AI. AI always picks your best discounted products close to the holiday season. They got me. Those bastards got me again. So there's this guy called Bobby Owsinski. He's apparently a really good mixing dude. He does it for a lot of famous bands and stuff. He started publishing books, and these books are freaking amazing. It's like a 101 guide to mixing from the very basics. And I know Carl, you always plug getting a really good mixing artist, and I appreciate that because there's so much to learn. But I'm all about learning, and I got this other book thrown in on how to master mixing with the DAW, and I thought it was a scam, but I thought, hey, for $30 or whatever, it's probably not too bad. It's really fucking good. He keeps sending out video blurbs as well on how to do certain techniques, and so check it out. I recommend it. Bobby Owsinski, just Google him. He just works from home. He produces these books from home now. That's all he does. He's retired. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome, thank you. Razzie, I want to go in after you very quickly.
I think it should be a requirement that every mix engineer that you like, every producer that you like, has to do videos about what they did. They have to document what they're doing. They have to have a YouTube channel or a Twitch stream, and they have to spend 20% or 5%. There should be a rule documenting and explaining and talking about their process, so you can go right to the source.
I love it. On that, I got thank you again, Sign. Excited for the new industrial-like approach on the new album. Thank you. How did you get to it? Were you ever inspired by Frontline Assembly? Yes, very inspired by Frontline Assembly. Probably not on this album. This album is very inspired by Skinny Puppy's Too Dark Park. There's a lot of distorted sampler. There's a lot of Blasterbeam. And there's a lot of drums. Dave Natofrom from Fourth Wall's doing a whole bunch of the drums on it. I'm trying to do something totally different for ANGELSPIT. And I've got to... So what I'm doing at the moment is I've sent a bunch of the Blasterbeam tracks, because when I record Blasterbeam, it's out of like 5 pickups. 2 of them I will distort using the pedals here, and then the other 3 I will record raw. I will cut them up and then reamp them. And I've now sent them down to George Bykos in Florida. George is a guitarist with ANGELSPIT, and he also runs a studio, and he is the man for getting guitars sounding huge. The thing about the Blasterbeam is it's so reckless and so shangy, and it has such offensive frequencies in it. Getting a big ballsy guitar sound is not easy. So I've decided I've started to just get someone who knows what they're doing. George is the fucking legend. So he's working on that now. But the whole point of the album is to throw myself out of what I always do and to break cycles. Because musically, it's always, I'm doing these chords and now here comes the music and blah, 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 blah. But with this one, it was like, here is a sample. When you distort the sample, it brings out the harmonics and it sounds like there's notes in there. So what are those notes saying from a piece of metal that's being banged? Is there a drone that works with this? And that's really exciting to be doing something like that because it's a totally different way for me to work. Actually,
do you look at the frequency that's emitted from the
yeah,
signal?
well, sort of. But the thing about metal is that when you bang it and distort it, it's like there's your fundamental, and there's a harmonic. And that harmonic might be like a weird sixth or something, or a weird octave in a
Like overtone sequence instead of 12-tone-ish.
Yeah, and that's the great thing, when you bash a piece of thing and you sample it, when you listen to a lot of the Depeche Mode stuff where it's like, here's a melody line that's being played by a piece of smashed metal that was sampled. You listen to it and there's a harmonic in it every single time. And that harmonic is not in the key center. It's not just a nice piano playing A. It's something with this weird, weird harmonic in it that is giving the hint of it being a chord structure of an interval. And when you start Construction Time again is always an inspiration to me. Fucking Pipeline, what a track. But going back and actually trying to pull apart the way you write music. That's the whole thing, and the lyrics and everything else are inspired from there. Yeah, and now my question is becoming, okay, so how can I apply that to everything I do creatively? How can I go through and I guess that's the thing about AI generated shit is that, you're starting with something that isn't normally what you would do, and then you build on it. So yeah, it's been great fun. That was it. Did I interrupt someone? Was somebody saying something important? Because I feel like that wasn't. But anyway, thank you.
Have you done generative stuff with your Dogfa?
Yeah, kind of. Yes, I have. I mean, yeah, I definitely have. Because I got the Mind Phaser. You can't get them anymore. The Hex Inverter Mind Phaser is a modular. Speaking of frontline assembly, it's like two oscillators, really fucking good oscillators that atomically smash their frequencies together. And it's not just frequency modulation. It gets into folding. Hold on.
Wave shape.
Oh yeah, folding, phase, feedback, a whole bunch of stuff, and really, really beautiful. It's kind of like the the No Coast, the Buchla sort of idea, but taking it to a crazy, crazy extreme, and that's from Hex Inverter, who unfortunately they stopped making them. But what you can get out of that thing's beautiful, and I've done it a bit. I've got a digital noise engineering thing that's kind of like a DX7, but it's for percussion. But yeah, a bit. I do it a bit. In fact, I do it a lot. I do a lot of modulating on frequency stuff, on the filter, I should say. Because you get some really beautiful things going on there.
Is that just random noise feeding the filter? Or?
Yeah, sometimes. When you put noise
Stuff up in the audio frequencies modulating the filter.
Yeah, but actually, if you use noise to modulate a filter, you get a great, really nice thing going on. It's this really archaic, fluffy sound. It sounds like the sound of the 70s. It's bloody great. But yeah, with the filters, I'll usually put in another tone, like another VCO, and that will be controlled via CVs and stuff. Sometimes I'll take a sub octave out and control the filter with that, and if you do that, it's going to sound like there's a sub going on, but technically there isn't.
Do you use a divider for that or a subharmonic?
I use a divider. But usually what I like to do is to have a second oscillator that's also playing whatever the main note is, but you've got a controller in there as well, so it's playing along with it. Oh, now it's going to be a bit toiled. Now it's going to be down here. So, you know, when you're doing that into a filter, you can still keep the musicality of it, because when you do that, like, you know, FM modulating, you start blowing out the actual note. You lose the definition of the note because of all the crazy frequencies being involved. But if you do it into a the filter or the amplifier, you still have, you know, the core fundamental note, and that other oscillator is firing off frequencies. It's a lot clearer, I think. Or stick it in a ring modulator, or stick it in a sync. But I don't nearly as much as I should. I should fuck with that shit some more.
You should really do some more video sessions on your modular playtime, Carl.
Yeah, I should. I've started doing these art of synth things that every now and then I'll get on and say, okay, here's what I'm fucking with today.
Yeah, I watched one the other day, and it was all fuckery with Blasterbeam, which is really good, but you don't explain what you're fuckerizing with.
Yeah.
In the modular stuff, and even if you don't know what you're doing, you could say that and say, I'm gonna just try this random connection and tweak some knobs, and I'm looking for something more gnarly or sweet, you know. And if you find something more gnarly and sweet, then maybe explain, oh, I just plugged that into the, you know, the divider, and then fed that into the VCO, and then into the filter or something like that, and I got this effect. That would be really educational, especially for me, because I'm dumb.
For sure. You're not dumb, but I know exactly how you mean. Because the thing about modular is that most of the time it's like, no idea what I'm doing here. Like, I never use pulse width modulation. Never. I know, and right? I should, but I don't. And my hang up with pulse width modulation, oh, shut up, is that my music's so, like, stupidly complicated. Like, there's so much crap going on, you can't hear it. That my desire is one day I'm going to have, like, that huge fucking bass that's just pulse widthing to shake the walls of your house, and you will hear it pulse width modulate. You will hear it. Alex, save me.
Pulse width modulation can be really great if you want something that's big but you only use one oscillator, so it's easier to mix.
Yeah. A fine piece of advice. A very fine piece of advice indeed.
But that's too simple for Carl, right?
I know. Well, it's not. It's like you know, don't underestimate the power of one oscillator. Like the 80s fantasticness was mostly one oscillator. My problem is that I'm trying to make music less complicated, so you can actually hear the pulse width. Because my problem is that, you know, I spend all this time making all these tiny little adjustments in butter, but it's like, once it's in the mix, you're not gonna hear it. And what I want to do is get to a point where the mix is such that you do hear it. You know, the amount of time I spend just cutting shit out, it's fucking crazy. Rez, help me.
Just want to go on record as saying that I use the modulation of the width down through 0, so I get small sounds a lot that way rather than big sounds. So that disappearing, thinning till it goes away, head trippy kind of sound is also right up the alley of modulating your width.
That's brilliant.
Wave.
I gotta fuck with this shit some more. Composition is king to make sounds stand out on their own, literally. Yes, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Does anybody else want to bring up something amazing? Or do we want to stream to MTV TV? That's my commercial for MTV TV. No?
Might be that time.
It could be that time.
It might be.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being a part of this craziness. Diana, get ready to stream. If you're wondering what's about to happen, we are going to go to MTV TV. Hold on a minute. Where's my link for freaking MTV TV? It's in here somewhere. MTV TV. It's right here. That's where we're going to go. Booyah! So go to that channel and like that channel. But just before you go to that channel, do me a favor and like ANGELSPIT'S Twitch, because it's always going on. And if you got a couple of bucks laying around, throw it at my Patreon so I can keep fucking annoying people. But let's write to MTV TV. Diana, let me know when we've done that. And I really thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you this time next week, right here, Art of Rock, 9 a.m. LA time and everywhere else in the world time. Because time, man. You rock. Bye. 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 Bye.